Hey, in today's video, we're going to take a look at several 12-volt lithium iron phosphate batteries from a company called Seacon Energy. And Seacon did send me these batteries so I could review them for the video, but they are not paying me any money, nor do they have any editorial control over what I say. So the opinions that I express in this video are my actual opinions, and they are not being dictated in any way by the brand. Okay, with that out of the way, if you watched my previous video, I think I mentioned that I'll be doing 2 or 3 giveaways this holiday season, and so we're going to be doing that in this video as well. This time, I'll be giving away this Opus Exodus 600. So stay tuned, and I'll give you instructions on how to win that later in the video. But back to these Seacon batteries. Now, I actually reviewed my first Seacon battery about 6 months ago, and that was their 12-volt 100 amp hour Classics battery, which I found to be an exceptional value at the time, considering its solid performance and the fact that it had built-in low-temp cutoff protection, and yet still had a budget price that was more in line with similar options that are on the market that do not have low-temp cutoff protection. And so when Seacon approached me again last month and asked if I'd be interested in checking out several of their other Seacon battery models, I said, sure, let's do it. And so they sent me these particular 4 12.8 volt batteries here. This is the 100 amp hour mini over here, the 100 amp hour trolling motor over here, and then I've got the 200 amp hour Classics and the 200 amp hour mini. Now, like the 100 amp hour Classics battery that I had previously reviewed, all 4 of these models from Seacon do actually, at least according to the manual, have low temp cutoff protection. All 4 of them do have a 100 amp BMS, meaning they're rated for a continuous charge and discharge rate of 100 amps. So individually, just one at a time, these batteries would be appropriate to support up to about a 1200 watt inverter. And if you wanted to connect them to something larger, like a 2000 watt or maybe a 2400 watt 12 volt inverter, you'd want to put at least 2 of these in parallel so that they are current sharing and able to support those larger loads. But all of these batteries are also rated to support up to a max of 4 in parallel or 4 in series, or up to a 4S4P configuration, which is 16 batteries. And that would provide a total capacity of about 20 kilowatt hours at a 48 volt nominal system voltage, which is certainly suitable for most small or moderately sized off-grid applications. And finally, all have a 5-year warranty. So now if you're like me, you're probably thinking, okay, that's all quite reasonable enough, but are these particular models as good a deal as the 100 amp hour Classics that I reviewed 6 months ago? And the answer is they're not. Actually, they're a fair amount better. The pricing on all of the Seacon 12 volt 100 amp hour versions right now is a jaw-dropping $139.99, 140 bucks. So yes, you heard me correctly. A 12.8 volt 100 amp lithium iron phosphate battery with low temp cutoff protection for 140 bucks. Now that is crazy town pricing, and I don't know how long that's going to last. But for now, at least through the end of December, that's the price on the 100 amp versions. And the 200 amp hour versions are $329.99, which is also a phenomenal deal right now. So let's go run these things through the paces and see what, if anything, that you might have to give up for a 100 amp hour battery at such a low price point.
All right, let's check the usable capacity that we get out of this 200 amp hour Classic. I've got this completely zeroed out on the history, and I'm using a smart shunt over here on the left to track the current in and out. There won't be any current going in, but there will be current going out. So I'm gonna hook an oil heater up to this. I've already got it connected to the inverter. Let me go ahead and enable the disconnect. And we're gonna start drawing some current as the inverter kicks in and starts feeding the load. You can see this is gonna start counting up. And we're at about 62 amps. Let me drop that down just a little bit. This will get us closer to 50 amps, which is about 0.5 C. So this should be a good test to see how many usable amp hours and watt hours we get through this battery when it's fully charged. So check back when it's done. All right, the test is still cooking. Ignore the state of charge. I actually accidentally reset that once my AC inverter got to a low voltage cutoff, but the battery still had some juice and the BMS hadn't cut it off yet. So I think it cut it off and I was about, I want to say about 183 amp hours, but that was, again, the low voltage cutoff on the AC inverter. So I hooked up a DC load tester, and I'm pulling a very small load now, about 8 amps. The value of interest is the cumulative amp hours drawn. Let me zoom in for you, and that's that guy right there. And we are already at 201 amp hours, so we're already getting more capacity than is rated from this battery at 200 amp hours. And the watt hours, if you do the math on this, should be about 2,560 watt hours. Now, I don't have the precision on the discharged energy, but we are at 2,500 and something. It doesn't go past that first decimal place there. So we have been getting the rated capacity of this battery. So the load test is definitely a pass. I'm going to let this go ahead and complete discharging until the BMS shuts us off, and then I'll find out how many total cumulative amp hours we actually did get. But already we're in the bonus column. All right, the weather is turning pretty bad. We are up to 202 amp hours discharge. We're all the way down to about 10.18 volts. So I think the battery BMS is going to cut us off any time now. I would be surprised if we get to 203 amp hours, maybe. But still, that is very good performance out of this. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, and I'm going to sit it outside under an overhang so it doesn't get wet or snowed on, because tonight, sometime after about 2 a.m., we're going to drop below freezing, and we're going to be in around 15 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm going to try to freeze this thing. Okay. Actually, I just heard it cut off. So we just lost it. Anyway, yeah, so we caught it on camera. So we got about 202.5 amp hours would be my guess. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put this outside, see if I can get this to freeze. And then by mid-morning, sometime tomorrow, I'm going to bring it back in the workshop here, put it on the bench, see if it'll charge. It should not if it's frozen all the way inside, which I think we'll have sufficient time to do that. And we're going to find out if that low temp protection actually works. So I'll see you in the morning. Got a very cold morning. It's actually about 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm moving pretty slow. I actually tested positive for COVID this morning after a couple of days of fairly mild symptoms. So apologize if I look a little more haggard than normal. But anyway, we are probably around 18 degrees max right now, and it's been pretty cold for the past 6-7 hours. I've had this battery sitting out all night, so it should be pretty well frozen. So let's get this inside and see if it will let me charge it even though it's frozen or not. Find out if that low temp cutoff actually works. Let's do a quick temperature check here. You can see the case is now warmed up to 31 degrees, 30 degrees, something like that. Definitely colder inside. That's because I brought it into a room where ambient is about 40 degrees. I've got my battery charger over here, and you can see the green LED is on. So it is ready to go. So let's see what happens when I connect this up. All right, hopefully you can see that green light. And it is definitely not charging. So, low temp cutoff, definitely passed the test. I'm going to let this warm up in here, and we're going to see if it resumes charging on its own. It should, but I'll report back. All right, let's do a usable capacity test on this 100 amp hour battery. Now this is the trolling motor version. Looks just like their 100 amp hour mini in terms of form factor, but you know, because it's the trolling motor, it's got a few extra features, and we'll get into that if I haven't already. We'll do a little bit later. But I have everything set up. Let me go ahead and turn on the AC inverter. Go over to status here. We're currently only powering the inverter itself. Let me kick on the AC inverter, and we should start to pull some amps here. So 56 amps, basically the same load as before. And I've got history reset. So you can see here my cumulative amp hours drawn is 0. So we're going to let this run all the way down till the BMS shuts us off. And we'll find out how many watt hours usable we actually get out of this 100 amp hour trolling motor battery. Now, in order to read the smart shunt, I need to give it 12 volts. So I'm going to connect another battery up to the bus bars in the back, and that'll allow us to read that. Turn this on. That should allow us to reestablish communications with the smart shunt. Say okay, and we're back online. Well, history is showing us total accumulated 99 amp hours, which is strange because I saw exactly 100 amp hours right before it had switched off. So 99 or 100 amp hours either way. So I still will give this a definite pass because I definitely saw 100 amp hours discharged before everything's shut off. So usable capacity test definitely lives up to spec. All right, let's check the usable capacity on this 200 amp hour mini. So first glance, it kind of looks like the other 200 amp hour classic, but if you'll notice, the terminals are spaced lengthways on top, much further apart, instead of all being both on one end. So depending on your particular layout, the mini, which has a slightly smaller overall footprint than the classic 200 amp hour, the footprint is not dramatically different, but it's a little bit different, a little bit smaller. But because the terminals are spaced out like this, it might actually work in a place where you want to set the batteries in this orientation versus sort of lengthways in. Now I'm going to go ahead and run both the AC inverter and the DC tester at the same time, and the shunt should be able to record both of those since I am pulling the other side of this off of the negative lead there that does connect through the shunt. And so let me go ahead and start this guy. I just wanted to make sure that I had my history reset, and I do, so we're good there. All right, let me go ahead and enable the disconnect so that my inverter has power, and then we can start applying a load. We should see that kicking up there. 72 amps. I think we're going to go ahead and let it discharge at that rate and see how many amp hours we get. And we'll go ahead and let that run until the BMS shuts us down. And I shouldn't have to switcheroo anything because I've got both the AC inverter and the DC tester running at the same time. Okay, let's check back a little bit. All right, let's have a look and see where we are. You can probably tell by the sound of my voice, the COVID thing has gotten worse. It's actually been 2 days of elapse. I haven't been outside for 2 days. This is my first time venturing out. So the battery BMS is clearly shut down in the smart shunt. If I try to connect to it. So the battery BMS is completely shut down. I'm trying to connect to the smart shunt. It's probably not going to connect because I'm not getting a full 12 volts anymore since BMS is preventing any output. So I need to connect another battery up to my bus bar to provide that 12 volts, and then we can read and find out how many amp hours we actually got out of this 200 amp hour battery. All right, I've got another battery connected now. Let me try and reestablish communications. Looks like we are talking. All right, let's go over to history. And you can see cumulative, if I zoom in there for you, we've got 201 amp hours. So definitely getting the full 200 rated amp hours and then some. So again, these Seacon batteries, the classic and the mini, definitely performing up to spec in terms of capacity. All right, another day has elapsed and I'm still fighting the COVID. Doing my best to try to make progress here. But this is the Seacon 100 amp hour mini. And let's find out what the usable capacity is on this. Find out if it lives up again to that 100 amp hour rating. So far, we're basically batting 1,000. All the other three batteries I tested, or four if you include the original 100 amp hour classic that I tested a couple months ago, they've all been able to achieve spec. So I'm pretty confident that we'll do okay with this one, but let's just make sure. Go ahead and apply a load. And I got my smart shunt hooked up to this. Let's go to that. We are pulling 55 amps. Let's go ahead and run the DC tester as well. That way, when the AC inverter shuts off due to low voltage, before the BMS does, this will finish it out and we'll be able to capture all of the amp hours that we were able to get out of this battery before the BMS kills it. So we are off to the races. We'll check back when it's done. All right, our usable capacity discharge test on this 100 amp hour mini is done. And if you take a look here under cumulative amp hours drawn, we have 101 amp hours. So yeah, we are definitely getting, again, just a little bit more than the rated amp hour capacity out of this battery. All right, since all four of these Seacon batteries have 100 amp BMSs, meaning they can sustain, or are supposed to be able to sustain 100 amps continuous load, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can do that for a full 10 minutes on each one with a 100 amp load. And rather than making you sit through each one sequentially, through the magic of editing, I'm gonna put them all four up here on screen and run them at the same time. So We'll find out at the end if there were any noteworthy differences between these batteries. But let me go ahead and load them up first. Make sure I can get at or slightly over, there we are, slightly over 103.8 amps. So let's start that timer now. All right, the Mini is a pass. All right, 100 amp hour trolling motor, definite pass. And we were actually at just under 108 amps for most of that test. All right, 200 amp hour Mini, definite pass at over 105 amps. All right, the 200 amp hour Classics, definite pass at 105 amps.
Okay, so let's wrap up on some final thoughts and then I'll get to the power station giveaway details for you. So due to the fact that I got COVID right as I was getting into the testing phase part of this project, I ended up losing several days of work time as a result. And so I ended up only testing the low temp charging protection on the 200 amp hour Classics battery. But I did also previously test that on the 100 amp hour Classics battery as well. For low temp, and both units clearly passed the test, no problem. And I have no reason to believe they're using anything different on the other three models as well. So I'm pretty confident that the low temp protection circuits in all these batteries are going to perform up to spec. But aside from that, as you saw, all four of these batteries did live up to their advertised specs just fine. So a couple of other observations that are probably worth pointing out. You might be wondering what makes the troller motor version different in terms of the other 100 amp hour battery. After all, from the outside, they pretty much appear to be identical, both kind of having that Group 24 form factor. Well, the troller motor version actually has a couple of additional upgrades, despite the fact that it's actually currently selling for the same crazy low $140 sales price as the other 100 amp versions. So first of all, the BMS board in the troller motor battery is fully encapsulated to further enhance its shockproof and waterproof ratings. In fact, the troller motor battery has an IP67 rating, meaning that it can withstand temporary full immersion in water, while the other non-troller motor battery versions have an IP65 weather rating, which is still an excellent weather resistance rating, just not rated for full immersion. And finally, the troller motor batteries also have transient voltage suppression built in, which is something that you typically want to look for when you're looking for marine application batteries. Now, another thing that I'll mention is that, as I understand it, this 200 amp hour mini battery is out of stock right now and doesn't have a restock target date. So, at least not that they've been able to tell me. So if this was one that you were interested in, you might be out of luck on this particular one. But the other models remain extremely solid options as long as you can pounce before that sale price ends. And you can pick them up the lowest price points that I've ever seen. And Seacon does have other battery models as well, including self-heating batteries and 36-volt golf cart batteries. And as far as I'm aware, those are also on sale for some of the best prices you can find pretty much anywhere right now. And per usual, I will put links below for you if you want to go check out what they have. I'm just genuinely impressed with what Seacon is doing right now. Probably the best lithium iron phosphate bang for the buck that you're going to find right now. All right, let's talk about the power station giveaway. So as with my previous giveaways, in case you're concerned, there is genuinely no catch. There's no cost. It's completely free. No one is collecting your information, your private information, unless you're the winner, in which case I obviously need some information so I can ship you your power station. And as I said, I'm doing this particular giveaway to promote my new channel, ReeWray Everyday. But this time I'm actually providing the power station myself rather than a sponsor providing it. So again, it's this guy right here. But since I'm providing it myself, that means I'm also footing the bill for shipping. And so unfortunately, but necessarily, I'm going to have to keep this particular giveaway relegated to US-based addresses only. Otherwise, the shipping costs would completely eat me alive. So my apologies to those of you not based in the US. So here are the 3 easy steps, much like the last one, that you need to complete to be eligible to win. So first, just make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, ReeWray Outdoors. And then leave a comment below on this video and include the words ReeWray Everyday. And it's important to include those exact words, with or without the quotes, doesn't really matter. But that's because those are the keywords my random comment selector will be looking for, and also because that is the name of my new YouTube channel, where I'll be posting content that is more focused on things like DIY projects, or a lot of EV content, outdoor adventures when the weather gets a little bit better here, travel, including hiking, kayaking, stuff like that. miscellaneous things and other things that I find interesting to talk about that aren't specifically related to portable power and solar and the things that are more typical that I talk about on this channel. And so the third and final step to getting entered into the giveaway is that you can use the link that I put in the description below for you to jump over to my new channel and subscribe to ReeWray Everyday as well. And it's still light on content, as you'll see when you go over there. It's just getting off the ground, but I'll be adding new content pretty regularly, especially now that I'm just nearly getting over this bout of COVID. But while you're there, maybe you can also watch a video or two, or maybe you don't even have to watch it. Just let it play while you run out for lunch, or let the dog watch it. I don't care. Either way, it all helps me get the channel going. So that's it. Do those three things and you're officially entered to win this Opus Exodus 600 power station. And I'll be doing the drawing for this giveaway on Sunday, December 22nd. So that's coming up fairly soon. I'll post the winning comment on the community post. And then I'll also, and this is important, if you are the winner, I'll reply directly to your winning comment with instructions on how to claim the prize. And you'll know that that reply is from me and not a scammer, because my reply will display my name kind of like this, with a rounded highlight around my name. Any replies that you get that do not look exactly like this are not from me. So things like this, for example, this is not me. This is a parasite scammer. But again, this one is me, and I will not ask you for money, not for shipping, not for anything. As I said, completely free giveaway. But you might want to also enable notifications for YouTube if you haven't done that already, so that you'll be notified if I comment back and let you know that you've won. And that's important because you only have 1 week to reply and claim your prize before I have to redraw for a new winner. So check out the details. If you want to go recap all that, I recap that for you in the description below. I wish everyone luck on this. And as I said, I'll be doing at least one more giveaway over the next couple of weeks. So please feel free to join me for that one as well if you want. I thank you for watching this video with me and for helping me jumpstart my new channel. And I do hope you'll consider joining me again soon on both channels. And until then, happy holidays, everyone. And don't forget to have some fun out there.